Hey everyone, welcome. We are going to do our seventh summary lecture right now. And I've got one of my pets here to help for a minute, like a little Vanna White or something, my teaching assistant. Um, so we are now full force into marketing, as you know. And what we're going to do today, you can see, so we did the positioning statement. Now we're going to get into this whole strategic marketing mix, but I'm going to kind of divide it up into two different parts. Essentially, marketing mix usually has the four P's. You may have heard about this if you've taken another type of marketing class: product, price, place, promotion. Because promotion takes a little bit more, I'm going to say, creativity and perhaps time, I've decided to sort of just chop that one off for now. And let's just talk about the first three P's today. And then I'll have a separate lecture to talk specifically about promotion. Um, but here's a lovely little infographic that I got from the internet that talks about the four P's as they relate to regular products, not necessarily like social marketing products. So commercial marketing, not social marketing. And you can see that again, this is a type of thing that is not that the social marketers borrowed from the commercial marketing strategists in terms of thinking about all the different things that you as a marketer are trying to sell to your audience. Now, as we've talked about, really what you're trying to do is get them to change their behavior. But what's neat about sort of this idea of thinking about how um, there are lots of different products that you could be trying to sell at the same time in order to get them to do that product, in order to get them to adopt that behavior, is that it really forces you to think about all the different messages that you need to communicate when you're putting together your marketing materials. Because you want to tell people, like, ultimately what the benefits are of whatever you want them to do, but you also might want to give them other things to help them perform that behavior. And all of these things are considered different types of products. So here's another lovely infographic. This one's actually from your textbook. These are the three things I want you to think about. So the core product you probably already have thought about. So the core product is really like, what ultimately are people going to get from doing what you want them to do, right? This is the ultimate benefit. Maybe it's cleaner water or better well-being or longevity or better mental health. I mean, ultimately you could be asking them to do all different types of things that are like good for them, but the core product is really like, right, and why are we even asking them to do that? What's in it for them, right? What if they do this, what do they stand to gain from doing that behavior? um, so again, like I said, you probably wouldn't be doing this if, the core product wasn't already on your mind. Like whatever you are trying to persuade your audience, whatever behavior you want them to adopt, there's probably some really beneficial thing that they could, even if they can't see it as directly as you, it's something that they should be able to feel if they do adopt that behavior, right? Um, but these actual products and augmented products are all, I'm going to sort of say, scaffolding for that core benefit. It's stuff that your campaign can offer or try to sell. That can help support the behavior that you're trying to get them to do so that they can get to that core product. So an actual product or any sort of like goods or services that you can provide or make available that they could purchase or something like that. That is going to like sort of help with this. It could be, for instance, like, oh, you want, we talked about composting in earlier examples, and maybe like in order to encourage them to do that, like they need some sort of um, service that will come and help them like learn about composting. Maybe you want to offer, or maybe you want to give them composting bins. That's an even better example. I think I'll come back to later, right? So that's something that it's like literally something that you can say like, hey, I want you to get this product so that you can perform the behavior I want you to perform and then eventually get the core product, okay? And then augmented products are assistants. These are all things that sort of supplement all of your efforts. So let's say that you give people, oh, actually, let's say you give people the composting bins, okay? Let's say you have a lot of money in this campaign and you're like, hey, everybody in this community is going to get a free composting bin to like start off so that they can start this behavior. And then We're also going to offer, some classes in the community if you want to learn more about this. Like same with beekeeping, right? Let's say like you give people certain supplies that, all the goods they need to get started, but then maybe you have some other perks available. Maybe you have discounts or rebates or something, or tax deductions for adopting the behavior. I mean, I see this like with when people are adopting like solar powered roofs and stuff like that, right? It's like they're not doing it because of the augmented product, right? They're not doing something to get a discount, but that discount kind of like pushes them, right? We used to have the same thing for electric vehicles for a while, right? There was an incentive system, and people were not getting an electric vehicle because they wanted a discount on an electric vehicle. But the idea that they would get some sort of tax break was sort of supporting the behavior that, they were already wanting to do. Um, as you're thinking about how this applies to your campaign or products that you want to sort of offer or entice your audience with, go back to those audience insights that you did a couple weeks ago and think about, all the barriers and benefits and all of these things you've already thought about in terms of how your audience is going to see your behavior. And that might help you identify different products that you want to offer or products that you may have already decided to do. Okay. Some more examples of this. I just gave you the composting bin stuff, but some of this stuff, I've had a lot of students in the past that will rely on technology, right? To think about ways that, hey, people could just have apps. They can download it on their phone, and then all of a sudden, the campaigners, social marketers, have a way to sort of support whatever behavior people are doing. Maybe it is step counting. Maybe it's some sort of health monitor or GPS, type of situation. Maybe it's an app because you want people to do more yoga. And if you could have sort of an app where they could track things or get free tips or something like that, that would all be helpful for that. Or behavior relevant equipment, the yoga example, maybe you want to give them mats, which by the way, another sort of advantage of doing some of this stuff is like when you're thinking about promotion, sometimes you can kind of make this swag too. So the same things that are helping to support your behavior, you can put a little logo on, and then all of a sudden it's sort of like reminding them or promoting, the cause to it's kind it's a branding opportunity essentially, right? Um, so yeah, so anyway, just be thinking about all that. This isn't by all means it's definitely not exhaustive. I this is another interesting app that I found an example of, which I was like, I don't know. If I was a parent, maybe I would be interested in something like this. It seems a little weird, but yet it's also very creative. This was for an anti-bullying campaign, like to try to like help parents get involved with bullying. And the app was supposed to give them, tips on how to talk to their children about like what's going on. Maybe I'm not sure if the kids were supposed to be the bullies or the ones that were being bullied, but the idea is like maybe part of the reason parents don't get involved is because they don't know how to talk to their children about this. So the whole idea was the app was set up to help them do that. But again, think outside of the box. Here are so those are all like sort of tangible things that you could do, but also think about all of these different types of services that you could offer. I mentioned offering classes or community service events, or maybe it's some sort of distribution. Like if you're, dealing with an issue like food insecurity, maybe you want to offer some, events at the local pantry or something to help people get access to the food they need or something like that. Um, Personal services, I thought that well, actually, I fully confess, I get a lot of great examples from your book. One of the examples of a personal service as opposed to a community service is like a personal service is like something that one person can access when they need it. And an example they had was like, oh, on college campuses, providing escorts for people to um, have somebody walk to their dorm with them if they're, scared of being a victim of a crime or sexual assault or something like that. Or another great example was car seat inspections at, you can go to, at least you could have, you used to be able to go to um, uh, like volunteer firefighter locations and things like that. But maybe your campaign could actually set something up where if one person wants to take advantage of it, it doesn't have to be open to a whole community. You know, there's an opportunity for them to do that. Clinical services, you see this all the time. I see this advertised in different social media because it's a good way to get the word out. Like this is when like you literally sort of like take like a service that would normally be in a clinic and sort of put it out there in the community. So you think about how blood drives, mobile breast screening clinics, immunization clinics, those types of things. And then, of course, counseling services. When you think about hotlines or, you know, hotline apps or whatever, like those are all different types of services that can be offered that could, in theory, support whatever behavior you're trying to do. Or it could be directly tied to the behavior. I mean, I should mention that if your behavioral objective is asking people to access a particular type of service more often, you need to think about how you are either going to sort of supplement the services that are already there or perhaps even provide that service. So, yeah. Here are some examples. This is all in your book, so I don't want to go through it too extensively. But what I like about what your book did is they took that behavior objective and then they went across the core, actual, and augmented products so you can kind of see how they all fit together. We'll just do the first one, getting tested for COVID, like that's what we want people to do immediately after, you know, they attend some sort of event. And it's like, okay, obviously the reason we're trying to do this is because we don't want to kill grandma. Okay. So that's the core product. The benefit is no grandmothers die. But the actual product is that test, right? I mean, if we want people to perform a behavior, which is about testing, then what we're really trying to do is like get them to get that test. All right. But the augmented product is going to be like, okay, but what can we sort of offer to like make them buy into this? And maybe it's going to be a rapid result type of situation, right? Something that's going to make it easier for them to do it. So home results within 15 minutes. They're not going to have to go to the doctor. They're not going to have to, I mean, I know that we have been through all this like years ago and everything, but just thinking about how that looks on a strategic campaign level, that's it. But there's some other examples right there. And hopefully if you look at that, it'll sort of give you some guidance on how you can apply it to your own situation. Okay, the next P. Okay, so those are the products. The next P is price. This is all about, okay, how are we going to increase any monetary benefits or non-monetary benefits and decrease any costs from doing the desired behavior? The relevance of price is going to depend on what you're asking people to do. With the COVID example we just saw, right? I mean, look, COVID tests do cost money, but remember, for a while the government was like handing them out for free. That would be an example of like decreasing potential costs because you could see, well, we want people to do the test, but the money might keep them back. So what are some things we could do to sort of decrease that cost? If you don't have a cost, it's kind of not relevant, although it is possible you could incentivize certain behaviors with as we talked about before, different types of rebates or something of doing the behavior, something that it's like, ooh, here's a little perk, like you're going to save a little money this way, or, you know, whatever the case is. Non-monetary benefits are more of the, I like the, I have up here, I think it's so pretty, the West Virginia I voted sticker that came out a few years ago. I think like they had like a lovely competition where students submitted their own designs and we got this lovely cardinal I voted sticker. It's a really simple example, but that would be an example of a non-monetary benefit. So it's like not a price, but it's like kind of a perk that you can get. Like, I want people to vote. And then it's like, oh, they're going to get a little sticker to advertise it to their friends afterwards, right? Yard signs, plaques, pledges, commitments, all those types of things sort of operate on the idea that money is not the only thing that can incentivize people. So I want you to think of that too. And finally, the third P is place. So once you have all your products in mind and you're thinking about what you want people to do, obviously, which we've been doing all semester, you got to think about, okay, where is this going to happen? Um, your goal with thinking about place is thinking about how to make it as easy as possible geographically for people to access whatever goods or services, whatever things they need to do to perform the core behavior as possible. These are all some suggestions, things you want to think about, making obviously the location closer to your audience. I mean, with the examples I have here in the photos are all like these mobile clinics, right? So WVU has like the WVU Cancer Institute that'll go around and like come to you to do screenings. I mean, that's like a really um, kind of extreme but really helpful way to bring the services to the people, right? Not all of your behaviors might be conducive to a van, but you get the point. Maybe it's about making the location more appealing. These are the types of things that hopefully, again, you got from your audience insights. Like maybe people don't want to access certain services because it's in a bad neighborhood, or it's like maybe it's just not in a place that they frequent too often, right? Like it's not in a popular place that they used to go to. So, what are some ways that you can sort of like entice them to go to that place wherever they need to do it? Um, Again, I won't go into all these different things because it's sort of like what's relevant to your campaign in terms of place is really going to be dependent on what you're trying to do. But I just want to reemphasize that the whole idea here is being creative about ways that you can make that place much more likely for people to want to go to, okay, to get the stuff. Um, okay, so in here was another great little example if you want to sort of see how all this connects together. This was, I thought, the most adorable idea for a campaign. The campaign was about, trying to get pets adopted. And, the crux was like, okay, we want people to adopt a pet from a shelter. But what we're going to offer them is kind of like a matchmaking service. It's kind of like a service where you get to sort of like understand the behavioral profile of a pet and how it matches up with like the things that you need. So it's kind of like, pet dating or whatever. And that was like the idea of the campaign. I'm probably not doing it justice, but I think it's super cute anyway. So in here, they talk about like, okay, so the product here really is, we've got obviously the core benefit is going to be like pets are adopted, lives are saved, people have, companionship, all that good stuff. But what they're trying to do, like the actual product here is, these assessments, right? The meet your match assessments. And it's like a survey and they talk about all that stuff. And the interesting thing here is they talk about how sort of like the personnel, like the people staffing the shelter are going to be, um, working with the product to sell it to these potential adopters. The price, this is a great example of where price wasn't so relevant, and that's okay if you want to say that about yours too. Just make sure you're right about it. So the ASPCA, the Sad Sarah McLachlan people, they were the ones who originally, or who are sort of the sponsor of this, and they're saying we're just going to make it free. So that's fine. I mean, it's relevant, and then they're just like, we're not going to charge for this because the whole point is we just want people to adopt animals. Um, and then the place is, they're saying this is something that happens at the shelter. And, maybe there were different ways of doing that. Maybe you could, if you were doing a program like this, you would say, well, I want the place to be online because I want people to do this before they come into the shelter. What I want you to think about is just sort of like, do you have a good justification for wherever you do it? In this case, I can understand why they would want this because maybe they're targeting um, people who are already so ready. They already know they want to adopt so much that they've walked into the shelter. So maybe they've, done some pre-research and figured out that's the best way. But the point I want to sort of emphasize is like there could have probably been a lot of different places to give this product of assessment, but they decided on this one, and so too, you might have a lot of different options. So you got to see what makes the most sense for you. So okay, the next lecture, we're going to talk about the promotion, which is actually like, okay, what kind of message are we going to put out here to sell these products? Here's the example of this one, meet your match, bunch of cats. I just realized that it was kind of perfect. My cat was here at the beginning, but I didn't plan that. Okay, but that's it for now. On to promotion in the next one. Okay, bye.